The Therapist and the Coach podcast is a space for real relational conversations about what it means to be human.
In a world obsessed with fixing, achieving, and self help, we invite you to pause, lean in, and discover the wisdom already inside.
Together, we explore how healing, growth, and transformation can happen not in isolation, but in connection.
Through open hearted dialogue, we challenge the myth of self regulation and self improvement, offering instead co regulation, psychological safety, and the power of being seen. Hello, Lerae.
Hey, here
I
we
just
are.
I just saw you in
I
person
know
for
we're
the
on the,
first time.
well, not just that, but you were in Canada
I was in
just
Canada.
a few days ago.
Yes, that's what I'm referring to. I just saw you. That
I
I meant to
know, I
actually
know.
actually actually the one that we met in person, and that was I think our audience know that we were about to see each other for the first time. And I
Yeah.
came to Canada and I saw you and I gave you a big hug.
Yeah, and what was that like for you? Actually, we didn't really talk about that too much. We just got right into it, and then it didn't stop the entire weekend. Meaning the talking and the connecting and all
Thank
the
you for
fun.
asking. Yeah, yeah, I know we talked about it. I said like I know we had amazing time together, but we didn't really actually reflected about the weekend. So I'll answer, and then I'm really curious to see how it was for you.
Okay.
Um, in reflection, I think we just modeled, really walked the talk about how things should be done, actually. And even though I hate the word should, because there's no one way or another, but it's not that I'm referring to one way or another. I'm referring to the fact that we spent 3 days together or something like that.
Mhm.
And I know we came from intention to get to know each other and also do some work, to do some to make some material and offerings to leaders, coaches, all the helping professions, wherever it might be. Um, and I know usually when you come to those meetings, you kind of like,
Mhm.
okay, you get together, we get to know, we have like an agenda, we talk with this and that, and then we go and work. And what I thought was really beautiful about this meeting, and it's really rare that it happens, but it happened between us just effortlessly, is that everything was so organic. I knew we had an agenda to meet each other and also do some work, but it wasn't scheduled. It wasn't okay. Now we have to work. It feels like, to be honest with our audience, we just actually wrote down some things just before I was about to leave. You were about to leave, and you were about to leave. I'm sorry, and I stayed until the next day just to fly back home. But we did it. The actually writing was so easy because by the time we were ready to eat, we just like in 2 hours did the work that would be forcefully probably and not the way it just came so naturally that by the time we wrote it down, we just wrote it down and boom, we didn't have to change a thing. And so for me, I just enjoyed the whole thing because we were getting to know each other. And as we were getting to know each other, we were also talked about things that you and I are so passionate about. We didn't work. I don't feel that we worked a single minute. It was, even when we worked, we were so ready to put it out. And throughout the time, it was a mingle of getting to know each other while spreading ideas and collaborating and walking down the streets, and you show me around, and everything was so organic and so natural that I just think that we just kind of like let this wave kind of guiding us where we needed to go at any certain time. So I really enjoyed that. I mean, enjoying, even it's not the word, I mean, energetically was so aligned
Mhm.
that it just happened so naturally, and nothing had to happen kind of like, okay, now we get to know each other and then we need to work. It's all organic. So I thought it was very telling about what we actually believe, you and I. How was it for you?
It's so good to hear that. It's so good to hear that because of all of what you've just shared, because I can say same, 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 same. And I was quite aware of my internal world. Like there's so much I want to say to add. So everything that you said was my experience. From the moment you got off, I saw you in the airport and we walked towards one another, and there was some anticipation there.
Of course.
And yet the moment I saw you, there was just ease and
Yeah.
joy and all
Yeah.
these really good feels and a
I
big
get
hug
goosebumps
and
right
no
now when you talk about
awkwardness.
that. Yeah,
There was no of none of the dreaded social awkwardness. It was
exactly.
just exactly like being here with you. And I know I repeated it several times because I marvel at it, and I really think it is an important point to dive into, maybe even more deeply, is the organic alignment, is there's no effort here between you and I, is the fact that energetically there's just so much ease, and that didn't change in person. So that was, and we both are aware that one of the underpinnings of our relationship too is a belief structure that we're very much aligned on. We have different views and we maybe come at it from different perspectives, coaching, therapists, but we really believe in relationship. And
Yeah.
and I have done a lot of work to be in relationship in healthy ways with myself, with others, with life, and continue checking. And I really was celebrating that with you, because we just met, because
Yes.
here's another human being in the world where someone that we jointly know said, hey, these two need to meet. And we did. And
Yeah.
we both heeded that call and we just came to the table and saw what was here. And then we've kept saying yes without
Yeah.
expectation,
Right.
without, but with real, with deep conversation. Like we've been very, well, for me, I've been very real with you and very honest with you all the way along. And you've created an environment just by being who you are that intuitively and nervous system wise, I rest in your presence. And resting is something that came up a lot given the importance of napping midday for you,
Yes.
if I may say. But that
Absolutely.
was one of the things I took away, was this
Yeah.
concept of rest and ease, and you're talking to the ease and what you experienced in that. And I was reminded that, oh yeah, one of my cornerstone beliefs and what I tell new coaches and what got me through my startup years and years ago as a coach was, if you're working too hard, you're not coaching. Well, guess what? If you're working too hard, you're moving out of humanness and you're moving into performance. And that
100%.
was so alive for me. And you also aren't aware of this, but you were reminding me, because I bumped up against that doing a few times internally, and then was able to quiet it just by how compelling our conversations were, and the reminder of how important that aspect of doing is the relationship, and really investing in that and resting in that and finding a place of comfort in that, and then how much can happen as a result with ease. The doing just happens. And there's something else to say, and that is, this week of coaching, the impact of our time together. I revel in the fact that we've created something that we can share and with others, and it's in very baby stages, but it's all there.
Totally.
That is monumental.
Yes.
And yes, we spent three-quarters of the time together, well, probably more than that, probably 95% of the time connecting and resting with one another in our conversation, in our moments, in our way of being, and following the ease and following the flow, respectfully and organically with one another and whatever those needs were. Um, and then the work happened, like the action came, that the intention.
Yes.
It wasn't lost on me that we also had awareness, maybe meta awareness. You talk about meta consciousness, like that observer self.
Yeah.
Some people refer to it as higher self, higher consciousness, that we had a certain amount of time together. So there was a natural and organic and stated and agreed upon
Yeah.
container of time that we had. And it
Yes.
was almost like we moved uh, consciously, unconsciously within that space. And
Yes.
we're able to meet all the requirements of the doing while really being deeply connected in the being. And I've been able to bring that into my coaching this week.
Mm.
And in launching my first live Zoom for the Source Work program that I created and I'm running for coaches.
Yes.
And um and it's been transformational there too, because I'm reminded that even in that coaching space, by being present to what emerges within the shared experience, whatever the doing is, whatever the agreement is, whatever the intention is for the coaching session, the action comes out of being present with what is.
Exactly.
And I'm just grateful and just there's just so much potency, there's so much profound energy shift that can happen in that space, and so much can be revealed. And that was how I experienced the weekend with you.
I just want to almost like, and because it was so beautiful. You
Yeah.
said it, what you said right now is so beautiful. And I think it just, you did amazing job, just kind of like recapitulate what the experience was and how it is important to, I think we just kind of we kind of rode with the wave and let with the wave guiding us rather we are, okay, now we need to do this and that when we are, let's say, tired, you know.
Well, you
So
said the word efforting. You brought in
yeah,
that word. The efforting of life is
yes,
actually what I feel, what I was coming up against was the conditioning, the requirement, the I have to get results in order, if we go back to all the things we've talked about our perceptions and distortions of reality, and what we need to do to get our needs met or feel safe in the world, and or feel like we measure up or prove our worth. And I'm sure there's other reasons for it as well. I mean, those are the only things that are coming to mind. I'm not capturing the whole human
yeah, yeah,
experience
yeah,
here,
yeah,
but there is an expectation in the world that
right.
exists, that we are to perform, that it is effort, that it's, no pain, no gain. I'm like,
Yeah,
mm,
exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, no, because then literally the brain cannot process it. If we were talking about, you said like we were present and then it just went effortlessly. And what you said was so important. I want to pick up on that. We unconsciously knew, well, knew consciously we have 3 days. So that was a container. I mean, we knew that. And yes, we kind of knew what we want to achieve, but somehow we let go of what needs to be done and trusted that if we stay in the here and now with what we are capable at that point of time, if I may, I'd like to give an example for that. I'm hoping it's okay to share that. If not, we're going to edit it out.
No, you go
But
ahead.
but
Anything.
at the last day, you came to my room. You were in that bed. I was in my bed. We were kind of sitting leisurely and happily, and we're ready to pick up the laptop. And you're actually a much better writer than I am and faster. You
Mhm.
wrote the thing, and it was just that it was then a couple of hours before we separated. And then I remember I start talked about my ideas and you're writing, and I can see you kind of like yours. And we talked about the hypo and hyper and the window of tolerance.
Yes.
And if you remember, I said I talked about the window of tolerance, which will at some point we'll have a podcast on that. But just to kind of like me give the audience a little bit what it is, it's that basically a window of operation where we are alert, but not overly. stress, because if we're so stressed, you can't function. If you're too low and your system is just too down, there is not enough juice to be in the operating
Mhm.
system. And I started talking probably fast because it's coming from my brain, and I know that. And at some point, I'm talking about the hypo part, the lower part of the system that is actually, you just, sometimes people go to lectures, you know what it is, that you get the right information, but it's just too much and you just fall asleep.
Mhm.
It's not because it's not interesting, it's just, it's too much for the system at that point of time. And we were talking about the window of tolerance, and I said, Lorraine, here is the example of this. I mean, it's just like, and you were kind of like, it was just too much. And I said, and I
I was
noticed,
yawning.
yeah,
I
and
was yawning and
you're
closing my
yawning,
eyes.
and I noticed it right away. And it's an example of, I noticed that I'm talking now. It's interesting to me. I know that. I know it's interesting for you, but I saw your system is crushing in down like the limbic system, the emotion system. And I knew you told me, Oren, it's interesting. I'm just processing it right now. And it was such a good example of, okay. And I stopped. I said, like, okay, we threw some jokes. We were talking about that, and your system got up in 2 seconds. So it was so interesting because your system needed to not to hear more about the information that is just too much at that point of time, you know. But it was just, I needed to attend to you, to where you are at, because if I continue talking about all the right things that were interesting, but you at that point of time not receiving that, you're just like any kids, you kind of like tell them a story and they're interesting, and all of a sudden they fall asleep. It's like you don't wake them up to say, wait a minute, I didn't I didn't finish the story, because because there's nobody to listen, and you know that they like the story, it's just their system is going to sleep. That's what we want. But it was a good example for us throughout the weekend, attending to each other and
Mhm.
being with what possible to be within that window while doing everything we wanted to do. We were alert, and when we weren't alert, we went to sleep. I know that I told you in the beginning, it's like, Oren, and you were so kind. I said, Oren, how do you do things? And you just were very mindful about how I do things. I want to know how you, so we can actually be starting that kindness.
Yeah.
And I said, I need to have a nap every day. My whole thing, if I work in the morning, by the time of the afternoon, I'm a pumpkin. Because if I'm not, if I stay and try to that, I'm going to be in hyper all day long. I won't, my
Mhm.
system won't be able to tolerate. So I knew I needed that. And so I was try to be mindful of you. And I said, like, do you want to take a nap? It's like, yes, but it's not something that I'm doing that. I have kids. I need to be up. It's not it cannot happen. But at the same time, you allowed yourself to rest with me in the way that you could. And what I'm trying to say by that to people, we were in the here and now,
Mhm.
aligning constantly, very mindful, you with your experience and your sensitivity and your kindness, and hopefully mine, not to be on eggshells, but to kind of noticing each other
Mhm.
and constantly have a talk. Not constantly, what should we do? We will kind of start where we are right now and walk up to a walk and talk while we were walking, and all of a sudden see the beautiful buildings. Or again, it was so organic that we stayed constantly in the here and now of what possible for us to be within that window. And that kind of ended up that we are, even if we sometimes energetically, because we're two different people, something triggers you inside, some triggers me inside. We're different, have different needs, but we constantly had our mind in the here and now. Are we right now? How are we? How are we? Now, it wasn't really actually any anxious or like, how are you doing? How are you doing? Kind of like, that
Yeah,
kind of like
yeah. It was
people,
that. That was also very responsive and if it and intuitive. I would say it wasn't the checking in
no.
was from a place of pause more than that anxious
And I
energy.
think this was important because so many people are trying to do the right thing. And
Mhm.
we were just kind of like, if we notice something, we will talk about it. But the ease was there at all time. So it was just, I want to say fun throughout the time, fun, energetic, satisfying, restful. almost want to say, then again, I don't like the way should, but it should be. It should be just that, but in whoever, however people do it, they have different needs. We just need to listen to each other, really listen, not with our ear, with our heart. And we did, and we aligned, and the result just came so easily. And, I think we talked about that. Said like, huh. At some point we took a walk, I think, and we said, we haven't started working. And then we said like, but we are from the beginning.
Mm.
Like, I know we got to know each other and, had great time and great fun conversations and laughter and ease and resting and have good food. And while we're doing that, we were in a very organic way was also paving the way to everything that we just had to write at the beginning, then the end. And it was just so wonderful. And that's kind of, I think, where we want to, who we are wants to get people to get there. They would want to come back home to their families, that they want to come to go to work, that they want to see their employers rather than fear them, that the employers know that they don't have to be by themselves, even though they have the status. That doesn't mean that they know better. To be respectful, basically.
Mm. Yeah, I think that there is a there was a luxury in what we were choosing to do together, is that we chose it.
Yeah,
And I think we forget that sometimes when the choices that we make meet the human construct, that the construct of the system that we reside within, that influences and affects us, and is counter to what you and I are talking about. So a
exactly.
deer, and I'm just deer, are always in front of me here as I look out my window, and I marvel at their capacity to be present and alert at the same time, and then just take off in a second, and they all respond. The communication is just so there is so
Intuitive.
intuitive,
Yeah,
and we are the only species on Earth, I think, that wakes up in the morning and our first thought is, "What are we going to do today?"
you're absolutely right. 100%.
And what if the and what I'm discovering more and more and more, and especially after the weekend, and I've been reflecting on everything, is how incredibly limiting that thought is, and how ingrained it is. There is safety, as we have talked about in all of our other podcasts, in the doing and the performing and the getting and achieving and proving and showing and being in the world in a way that we belong and or feel acceptance or get our needs met, whatever, however we're meeting each other and the system in that space, whatever the
So,
drive
so
is,
correct.
whatever the,
So true. So true.
and when we talk about relationship being the bottom line, which is your language for where you and I meet in our belief systems and our understanding, at least at this time, about what's essential for humans to return to, is really ourselves and each other in essence, and that everything that is meant to be or be created comes from there.
Very, very true.
Yet
Very true.
it's
Also, in
not.
terms of scientific, I just want it's
Yeah,
what
please.
we're talking right about that. When you say that, it is true neurobiologically, neuropsychological. We are a left brain society that basically live ourselves in the dark, constantly by doing. The doing is a
Mhm.
prefrontal cortex that actually, okay, what do we do? How do we sit and
Mhm.
write and do what? And the creative, and we live ourselves in the dark, not breathing, not that, and all the real creativity of who we are.
Mhm.
How much more I'm talking about not in terms of we were able to do what you and I wanted to do, but think of the options that if we just kind of did the old traditional left brain, hi, Lorraine, nice to meet you. We're gonna have a dinner. We're gonna talk. We're gonna superficial, which was never happened between us. We were we were just having a blast. How much less we would be able to get from that work if we
Mhm.
just did it the left brain tradition, kind of meeting, smiling, superficial, while You can just can't go back home to and go to and run away to the social media because or to drink some kind of any anesthetizers, whether it's alcohol, social media, whatever it is, just to try to regulate yourself from something that you when you thought that you need to do. We're present with every part of us that needed that enjoys. It's not only enjoying, we opened up the vista to be together and produce something that would never have happened
Yeah.
if we only were left brain shifted and just kind of bring ourselves that. So the message is that you can be really you anywhere you are, and you'll have the best results also. If you really, you know what I mean? Usually,
Yeah.
sometimes I tell people that are very left brain and have clients of that just constantly to grow, wants to have more, 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 more. So how can you get me to help to have this, that? And I tell them, I want you to be okay with yourself. Yes, but how is that going to help me to get more money?
Yeah.
And I say, and that's what the slogan that we have, relationship is the bottom line,
Mhm.
is that if you open up yourself to trust yourself, little, but you'll trust yourself if you have somebody that's like you that would enable me to be me.
Mhm.
But if you do that and you create that culture, imagine how much creativity will come up. Imagine how much more you will just want to spend to give your comp, whoever that might be, just because you love them, just because it's your home, just because you want to, rather than looking at the clock and just kind of like be that and be dreadful. And when you actually work, you work probably 50% of what you can actually
Mhm.
do if you were really want to do that.
Mhm. Well, I mean, home-based business or entrepreneurs, they aren't paid by the clock. I work longer hours uh, but I'm so fulfilled by the end of the day. Most days, yeah, there's a hard slog once in a while.
So absolutely, of course.
But there's you're talking about left and right brain and the being and doing continuum. And I just can't help because something that was really alive in me coming back from the weekend and having the response from my family, having Brian reflect back to me, like, wow, you are energized. You often come back from these work weekends and you're depleted. Why? Because I'm by myself and
Right.
all I'm doing is working. Like that's the and while I'm listening to frequency music that is supporting me energetically and I'm eating well and I'm exercising, I'm doing all the right things to be in a productive space, I come back depleted. Yet
Yeah.
it was the complete opposite this time, and every single one of my family members reflected that back to me on their own time in their own way, which was really interesting because I have been doing these work weekends the last few years while preparing this program because it's the only time I had was to really
Right.
focus. And
Right.
so so there's that just support to what you're saying about fulfillment and energy and the expectation that work has to deplete us. That is also a misnomer. That is not the exhaustion actually doesn't come from the work itself. It comes from how we're approaching it.
From separation, and also from separation, true, you
Well,
were you were alone by yourself doing the work, you did everything right to regulate yourself, but you're doing that by yourself. It's
yes,
hard
yes. And
when
so
we yeah.
here's my other point. My other point is that I came back with this really powerful vision, and you happen to be doing it a lot today. You're talking with your hands like this. And what, if I were to say what it feels like to be in relationship with you at this time in my life and how you came in, it's this. It's like we were coming together and then we finally met.
Yes,
And it's in front of the heart, it's left and right brain coming together.
it's gratitude
It's
for me also.
it's one. So
It's
we do
one.
this a
Yes,
lot
yes,
unconsciously and unintentionally, thank
yes.
you, thank you. Or like, what are we actually saying when we're bringing our hands together? And when I do my work with leaders, when I do my work with couples, when I do my work with individuals, and we find ourselves in the extremes of right and wrong, or being and doing, or yes and no, or whatever those extremes are, 100% of the time, the answer or the way forward is in the middle. And this
Exactly.
is it.
Exactly.
You
exactly.
and a unique individual, your own journey that I was super interested and curious about knowing about because that I don't know your backstory. Eager to share pieces of me that you were interested in, which you were, which was so these two unique individuals come together and connect. And that's where the potentiality is. The separation
Yes,
and is where we lose.
yes,
So
exactly. It's,
here's what was also happening to me on the when I was sitting on the bed and you were on yours and we were just riffing off each other and having so much fun. And I started to what was happening was I was so engaged. Yes, I was tired because I happened to be just working on my nervous system, like bringing it down. And so napping doesn't come easy, sleep doesn't come easy. I'm also in a change of life where, 2 o'clock seems to be the time when my body wants to wake up, which isn't really convenient or helpful. Um, so yes, was I physically tired but not drained? And I was
and you said
typing.
that, and you said that,
Yes,
and you
and I
said
was
that to me.
typing. So I was
Yeah,
closing my eyes so that I could hear you and type because I don't need to look at the keys.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
that but I was also yawning to self-regulate, which is what you noticed, which was where the okay, this is a lot. And so to be able to regulate myself in that moment, I felt I could in your presence both yawn and you wouldn't take it the wrong way and that I could close my eyes and I didn't have to be attending to you. Like I didn't have to take care of you.
Exactly,
I could just take care of myself
exactly,
and do
exactly,
what needed to be done. And then I knew that if you had a question about it, you would ask. But what you had was more
exactly,
observation.
exactly.
So it it's just so I want to
Y-
say
It's
magical,
being human also,
but
it's
it's the
allowing
essence.
ourselves. The reason that I mentioned that, I want, it's so, thank you for saying all of that. And you felt safe around me to be you. And we are tending to whatever we need. If we need it, you told me, no, I'm okay, I can keep going, or we need a break, or we continue. But we constantly saw each other where we are and how we need to be at that point of time. And I said, when I said at the beginning, I'm hoping it's okay to share that. I wanted actually to give you a compliment by saying you were allowing yourself to be human with me.
Yes.
And honestly, within the same conversation, I had there was something that we talked about the way how I do things, and I have convictions about the way I do. Sometimes a bit rigid it might be because I believe in what the way I do. And you can and say very elegantly and gently but firm to say, Oren, there can be a different way also. Can you please
Mhm.
listen? And you did say what you said to me. And I was open enough to hear that. I hope you saw that. And I said, like,
Yes.
and I actually paused a bit. We paused. We paused while looking at each other because I acknowledged something that you told me that I noticed about myself that was something that I needed to listen to you, how to give other options that I did not consider before, that I thought that's the way and not the other ways. And we were vulnerable with each other.
Mhm.
It's to be human and to be, I think, expanded is to say sometimes, not even right or wrong. It's just like I'm open. I really am open to hear something that I might have done or I'm seeing that I can grow from. And I did grow from what you told me and gave me option and told me, but and you did it in such a beautiful way. You were very considerate. You didn't say, "Oh no, that's your way," and then just like, well, you said it in a way that invited me to be safe. And hopefully, I did the same thing with you. I think that that's what we did throughout. And that is an anecdote it's anecdote, but it's so important because there is no, sometimes we can be even defensive. That's okay. We're human. But we were able, I think, with these 3 days that we first time met, to have a lot of it. The alignments were easy.
Yes.
We had some very few things that I did that way, and it rubbed you a little bit that, and you told me about that in such a beautiful way that allowed me to receive it.
Mhm.
Now it's also me that open. I could be more defensive, and that's okay too. We're human. I want to give you permission sometimes to say, like, okay, I know I want that, but I can't. Just be kind to yourself. That's the whole thing. So we are with each other the way we can be at the here and now. But at that moment, there was your nervous system is kind of going down, and my system was just telling this way or that. And you stop and say, wait a minute, Oren, can you consider that? And you said it in such a beautiful way, and I trusted you to be wrong, to be, obviously there's no right or wrong, to consider other ways
Mhm.
that I didn't consider before or even dismissed before.
Mhm.
And I listened to you and I thought you're absolutely making sense.
Mhm.
That was, I thought, an incredible growing uh, within the weekend. That
Well, and
was so good for our relationship. A small thing, but a big thing.
oh, huge thing. And it was about giving and receiving feedback, which is something that has plagued humanity for centuries. So it's a real thing, and it's a real thing for leaders. Like I've had very high functioning leaders say they are scared to give feedback because they don't know what it's going to do to the person that's receiving it.
Yeah, yeah,
And there's so much tangled up in that.
yeah.
And yet we're talking about it all, and that honesty, and what I can tell you is that my intention was to offer you something as a gift, for exactly that purpose, that maybe there was something in it for you. I wasn't attached. So I was actually, so if I was just talking about right and wrong. So it wasn't you're wrong, I'm right. It was my feedback. What I had to share with you was from the middle. It's from the middle. There was no attachment. There was, hey, and it was, and I owned it. I owned my perspective, like from a coaching mindset, you know,
You also were safe with what you were saying. You didn't need my permission to like it or not.
yeah, there
You
I would,
you're just and that's why I think there was not much. Even if I didn't, you would hopefully say, "Well, this is how I do." It may have created a little bit separation between us, but sometimes even the different ideas. Let's say that I didn't agree with you, which I did agree actually at the time that I was not considering some options that you mentioned that were so
mhm,
important. But let's say that I didn't. But and that happens, that people have different ideas. But if we are really actually respectful and loving each other as humans, we will allow the differences. So the differences don't have to be separate. It can be together. Like you might like certain things, and I really don't like that. I love you. It doesn't really matter. We're not doing that together. We'll do some other things together, but we don't have to be what the message that I'm trying to say here is that we don't have to be the same people. We don't
yes.
have to wear the same clothes. We are different people, and if there's love and trust to let you be and be the other person, that's all we need.
So what you're talking about too is that right now in society, from my perspective and experience, there's a requirement to respect and appreciate diversity. And I'm like, I don't need to. And because I already do. And maybe there's places
Exactly,
I don't
exactly.
where I'm
Yes,
open to receive feedback around.
exactly.
But from that place is that you do not need to share my views. We share very different views on politics, on other things. They're very divisive in the world right now. We didn't really get into that, but it was present. But the essence, so if I'm not stuck in being right, if my nervous system can handle and I can co-regulate, with differences, and I can meet people in the middle, I can both receive them and offer what I have to offer that is honest and true in me, and I give myself permission to do that, and others give me permission to do that. What people
Exactly.
do with that honesty is up to them.
Yeah.
My responsibility is to offer it in a way that is respectful, kind, in a way that they can most uh, take from it what is there for them, if anything.
And let them be more of them.
And
You know
let
what I'm saying?
yeah, which is actually after this, I'm going to meet a dear, 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 like really special person in my life. And we've had a relationship fracture. I know that we probably have to wrap up here, but and that fracture happened in the summer, last summer. And I have not, it brought so much forward for me. And I was so confused and blindsided by it. And I started with blame. Well, she did this and she did that and blah 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 and da da da. And that
Oh,
was
you
not
got
the place
hurt.
to
You
meet
were
her
hurt.
in.
Yeah.
Um, and now as I've been preparing for this, it felt right to book the session at this time or session, but to meet at this time. But we also gave ourselves permission, or she gave me permission if it wasn't right, we could bump it, which right, we that permission is so important to not be held to something or have to. But then this morning
Exactly.
the clarity came and all I like I have nothing left to resolve with her because I see that it was all she was just being who she is. And I love that. And
Yeah, and
there's
she
parts
protected
that
herself. Yeah, and
there's
she
parts
protected
that
herself.
might not align with how I would behave, and which is what hurt me. But at the same time, it's an opportunity to like there's a part of me that matured as a result of sitting with this, holding this, allowing it to be uncomfortable and difficult and grieve certain things.
Yeah.
But it's been really transformational. So and now I'm excited to go see her, which is, a week ago I was daunted. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
will be by your side, and I will be by your
no.
side just that you know that you're safe.
Oh,
But that's all about, we're, if you think about sometimes people hurting us, we hurt them. We're protecting ourselves.
hmm.
We don't know sometimes how to. If we're scared, we won't. We have a fear
Well,
response.
and we don't necessarily know how to have these conversations.
We
We're not
don't
taught.
because
I was
no.
not taught. I've had to
Right?
figure it out. I've had to read books. I've had to be a coach for this many years. I've had to have counseling. Like there has been an intention to grow and expand in this space.
Yeah.
And all I'm doing is learning more about what it means to be human. That's it. That's in all of the
Exactly.
the
And I
learning and
think, and I
growing.
think the bottom line is we are allowing ourselves with love, like I want to be with you with all my heart with this
Yes.
conversation, that you know that nothing is stake, that you're safe. And then you will be, because of that, hopefully, and Brian, other people that supporting you, that you know that just you're loved, no matter what happens.
Absolutely.
And then you'll be more of you with regarding the consequences of what's going to happen with her. And just let us be. Let the things unfold the way they need to.
I'm going to add one more thing because yes, yes, and thank you for that love. And yes, I am loved. And yes, I'm supported. And I'm so fortunate. And the most important thing here for me that I'm celebrating and want to speak to is that I'm loving myself. I actually don't need the love to carry me, of others to carry me anymore, which is huge. So,
What enabled you to actually
yeah,
internalize that
but
you're
that
loved.
is what allowed me to get to this point is to have
Yes,
someone by my side, is to have
yes,
somebody show up, is to have somebody hold me, to have safe
yes,
spaces, to have
yes,
the safety of a coach or a therapist or whatever the and be
yes.
witnessed and
Whoever that husband,
and be on
whoever
this
it is,
journey,
yeah, yeah,
with that didn't have a container. So the personal development growth journey, it doesn't have a container like our weekend does. I mean, it does birth and death. And what we do within that is a choice. But oh man, we could talk for another hour. I know it. But
and
it's
we
been really,
and
really
we will
beautiful to unpack, not unpack, that's just is to reflect
to
on
reflect
our
on all of
shared
it.
experience and hear your
Yes,
perspective.
yes,
And
yes, yes.
thank you.
And I hope that people take that as not this conversation as a platform for kindness, that if they just, even if you didn't hear about all the things that you need to understand, it's just that we were together, and
Mm.
that togetherness, true togetherness, we even when have differences, but we're able to be together with all that came, enabled so much other things that we wanted to achieve,
With ease.
like this,
Like that.
like
Like
that.
that. Like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is why our third conversation was, hey, let's start a podcast. And then our ninth conversation was meeting in person
Yeah.
and then not stopping that conversation for
Mhm.
like 3 whole days.
And this relationship will continue. They could
Yeah.
continue to evolve. And as we evolve, other parts of us will come. It's not like a one, okay, now we know each other.
Yeah.
We know each other more, much
Yeah.
more. And it will, just like any relationship, when you met your husband for the first year, is this not the same husband that you know after 5 years? And we also grow as people, so we do change. So
Yeah.
relationships are ever changing and needs to be just like water we put on plants. It need to be watered with love and kindness. Shit.
I'll stop. All right, Oren. Yes, and the same to you.
Thank you so much for being who you are.
Create a wonderful Oren kind of day.
The same to you, Lorraine. I'll be by your side.
Thank you. And I hope be well.
I know. Bye
Bye.
bye.